I feel like playing a game. Not a regular game, though. Something great, something stupendous, something incredible. I want to play a game so good that it's got amazing right in the name. Maybe a SEGA game. SEGA's never made a bad game before. Amazing Island was developed by SEGA in the bygone era of the Nintendo GameCube. Remember that thing? Sold like shit, yet it has one of the most solid game libraries of any console I've ever owned. Remember when everyone made fun of the GameCube for its convenient carrying handle? Well, now you actually carry your game console around with you, and let's be honest, you're still a total psychopath for doing that. You can't put your GameCube in your pocket, but you also can't put your Switch in your pocket. Terrible design, 0 out of 10, go back to the Game Boy Advance. Things just haven't been the same since they discontinued it. Over 1,000 years ago, an artist created a picture book. The book was about a mysterious, far-off island where all sorts of amazing creatures lived together happily. The world within this picture book was well loved by the people. However, as time passed, the book came. Select between 2 of these Sonic the Hedgehog children, because this game was developed by SEGA, you see. There we go. HauntLich finds a magic book about the amazing island and hallucinates in his sleep that night. HauntLich, please, with this card, you can come. Jinto here wants us to fight the diaper-wearing eviling boss, and we summon a monster out of the monster card we were given. Some kind of rock dog guy. We fight the diaper monster by playing volleyball against it. Beating him cures Chino of the evil corruption, and we are now friends. The village elder gives us some exposition, then we meet 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵, who's gonna show us the only reason anyone's ever decided to play this game. He's gonna make us our monster companion. After a brief quiz, 𝓢𝓾𝓫 draws us our monster. 𝓢𝓾𝓫, the fuck are you making, man? 𝓢𝓾𝓫, what the fuck is this? Oh god, and then they gave it hands. I'd give this abomination the only name I find suitable, and we're off on our grand adventure. What manner of adventure do we go on with our newfound monstrosity? Minigames. And there you have it, that's Amazing Island. Game over, smell you later, guys. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. Actually, though, that's all Amazing Island is. It's a series of mini-games you play with your drawn monster. Imagine Spore, but with less game and more mini-game. Yeah, that's fine, I'll just keep that. But HauntLich, I hear you whinging. You can't just make a game that's just mini-games and call it amazing. No, you don't understand. The mini-games are also really fucking dumb sometimes. Like this one where you have to skip across the water, and if you fuck it up even a little bit, you'll only barely fail. Very cool game. Now that we've beaten the first eviling, I guess the second eviling, whatever, we've unlocked the ability to draw our own monsters. First, you draw the segment of the monster as an outline. Then, then you inflate it. I recommend very thick. Okay, no, for real. Let's actually try to make a monster here. You'll have to finagle the creator a little bit. Only being able to draw the outline from the front or the side doesn't really give you a huge amount of freedom. I had to tinker with it for a while to figure out exactly how to get it to do what I wanted. You know, as best as I could at least. Just like how 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵 is a dress-up game with a fighting game attached to it, Amazing Island is a monster maker with just a handful of minigames tossed at you. The skeletons they give you to draw over are also more suggestions than they are rules, showing you where certain body parts are and how they'll move around. You can get pretty extreme with how the body parts are shaped. Once you're finished drawing your monster, you have to add details. This is the monster's texture, the eyes, any accessories you want to add like horns or wings. You have a good amount of freedom over where to place these and how, and you can adjust the size and whatnot. Overall, it's a cool creator, especially for something on GameCube. I present to you 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓪𝓵. He is a delightful new haunt minion who I'm sure will never make me regret having spawned him. Sorry, is this minigame monster free throws? Of all of the monster-related minigames you could think of. Okay. 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓪𝓵, please, get some fucking baskets. 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓫, why did we even bother making you do after-school basketball practice, you waste of space? You'll never get into the NFL this way, you... That's okay, buddy. You'll get him next time.
Sorry, try again.
You're fucking adopted, you rocky bitch. Eventually, I did figure out how to play the minigame properly, but even then, only managed to barely scrape by with a win. 1,500 points is the default high score? Fucking how? A matching minigame. Again, a game where you make monsters. These minigames seem like very odd choices. Here we go. Actually running around as the monster. You are just throwing bombs at bad guys though, which is fine, I guess. I would have liked if we actually did something with our monster, but maybe that would have been a tall order for what is essentially Mario Party with a character creator. Get up there, 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓪𝓵, I can't believe this shit. This is exactly why I gave you wings. What are you, stupid? What? No way. There's no way the game takes that into consideration.
You made him out of rock, it just feels like rocks would fly so good.
I feel like it would have said something if your creature's cosmetics had an actual impact on its performance. Right? Some of the minigames, like the on-rail shooter games, are pretty fun, though like all of the other minigames, they're nothing to write home about. At the end of each minigame set, you have to play 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓷𝓼𝓵 every single time. At no point in the game, aside from the final boss, do you have a different concluding minigame. What a massive letdown. I decided to retire 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓪𝓵 because I simply couldn't keep myself away from the monster maker. The minigame extravaganza continues with the new monster minion, 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵𝓲𝓷. Aw, look at him go. He's a baby. I want one. Huh. 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓪𝓵 is way better at the spinning minigame than my monster from earlier. I fucked around with the maker a couple times and made this stupid fucking thing. When I played this same minigame earlier, I got knocked off like 15 fucking times. He got his ass absolutely handed to him. 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓪𝓵, on the other hand, did great, but I'm certain I played the minigame basically the same way. Huh. He flies about as well as 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓪𝓵 though. As you progress through the game, 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓷𝓪𝓵 adds more enemies to it, but this doesn't really change the minigame at all. I'm willing to bet this is much, much more fun if you're playing it with other people. But honestly, if you've got 3 people over, why in God's name would you ever pick this over any number of the Mario parties that were on GameCube? By the time Amazing Island released, Mario Party 5 would have released only a few months ago, and Mario Party 4 from a year earlier is considered by many to be one of the best Mario Party games, period. Then at the end of that year, Mario Party 6 would release. Being a minigame extravaganza on GameCube was risky business considering your competition. I think even if Amazing Island's monster creation was top-notch, on par with Spore, it wouldn't have been enough to get people excited about it. And the game's reception from the time reflects that. Critical reception at the time was middling at best, with its highest rating being an 80 from GamePro. The game's sales information is hard to scrounge up, but it looks like the game may have actually sold less than 500,000 copies worldwide. Ironically, this makes the game fairly rare, since very few people actually bought it, and those who did either refused to sell it or simply threw it in the fucking garbage when Mario Party 6 came out. There aren't a lot of used copies floating around. If you ask me, upon revisiting it, I've determined that the game absolutely deserves the reputation it got. Or I guess, the lack of reputation. Honestly though, I'm not sure that's entirely fair. When I thought about Amazing Island and wanted to play it again, I sure as shit wasn't thinking about the minigames. I was thinking about the monster drawing. The monster drawing is by far the coolest aspect of this game, even if it does leave a little bit to be desired. There simply isn't another game that gives you a base and lets you draw over it to make your own characters from scratch. I've heard of some indie games that experiment with this with letting you draw weapons and whatnot, but those are only tiny indie games as far as I know. With the prevalence of touchscreens and stylus handhelds like the 3DS and to a lesser extent the Switch, I'm shocked nobody's attempted this again. Yeah, the minigames aren't the greatest, and you do get tired of them after a short while, but I still find myself hankering to draw a monster and see what I can pop out every once in a while. Now that I think about it at length, I think the only thing holding Amazing Island back is having something actually meaningful to do with your monster. The only problem is, that's one pretty significant drawback.
Do you like this game or not?
Of course I do. I like Amazing Island, and that's why I'm so hard on it. It's just so close to being the perfect game. Mario Party with a character creator where you actually just draw your character out, that's a fucking awesome idea, are you kidding? The fact that the minigames are so ass is the disappointment of the century. And then, the worst part of it all is they never made another one. I would be more lenient if this was the first Amazing Island and then Amazing Island 2 came out and they souped up the monster creator and gave it a full suite of minigames like Mario Party. It had so much potential, possibly infinite potential. I mean it, this idea could have been a franchise and it just didn't. I'm not mad at it, I'm just disappointed, which is something I'm used to feeling actually.
I do my best, damn it.
Holy shit, this is you at your best? That's unfortunate.
Well, I won't ride into that one.
If someone made a game that had the same ideas as Amazing Island and had a nice big variety of minigames, maybe something more than an overworld to connect them together, I think it would be a smash hit. At the very least, I'd enjoy the hell out of it. Pretty much every minigame set in this game has this minigame in it, and it's one of the worst ones I've ever played. One of the worst minigames I've ever played, not just in this game, but in any game, really. By far the best minigame is the one where there's a ball you have to take to the center of the stage. It's the kind of minigame I expect from a game where you create your own monster. You gotta smack each other about to try to take the ball and grab it and get it to the center of the stage. It's fun, it's actually really fun. I feel like if I were playing this minigame with a group of friends, it would be a really good time. But it's one of the last minigames you unlock. Most of the rest of the minigames up to this point are just bare bones and mediocre. I mean, they're not even bad, they're just nothing to write home about. So right when I thought the minigames were starting to drift into being good, not just okay, I go to take a break, and I come back to this. I somehow accidentally got 100% completion for the minigames. I saw every minigame in the game already. I mean no exaggeration when I say that I'd only been playing for a couple of hours by this point. The game was already fucking over. I'm thinking back on it, and I'm still pissed off. Why was it so? It was literally just minigames. It had no reason to be so short. I mean, you already recycled the same minigame 3 or 4 times. Why not recycle them 5 or 6 times, 7 or 8 times? At least let me play enough minigames so that I see more of the unlockable customization pieces. I'd only seen about 20 by the time I had completed the whole game. I mean, the village elder bestowed upon me all chaos marbles or some shit, but I didn't think that I had already finished the game. I thought there was gonna be more to it. Real shit, I kind of thought that like the minigames were gonna be the first portion of the game, and then, I don't know, there was gonna be like an adventure mode, because like I'd said, I only played for like 2 hours. Yeah, whatever. I'm fine. Let's just kill the final boss and, I don't know, see if there's anything more after it. You know what? Fuck it. If you want something done right, you've got to get your ass in there and do it yourself. Victory belongs to HauntLich. The village elder tells us some shit about the goodness of heart and humanity or whatever the fuck, while bootleg HauntLich back there is having the absolute fucking shit fit of his life. My man's got too excited and now looks like he's about to lose his lunch. Throughout the game, if you did really well in the minigames, you'd get these pre-made monster cards, and the end credits roll and show you what I'm assuming are those monsters. As it turns out, there's a monster battling RPG style game where you play with these monster cards that get thrown at me, and wouldn't you fucking know it, it's unplayable. Why? Because you can only play it via the Game Boy Advance link cable. Holy shit, a whole part of this game is completely inaccessible without a Game Boy Advance and a link cable. No wonder nobody fucking bought this. I'm not even gonna look up what the Monster Battle RPG looked like because I don't want to feel like I missed out on something and get even more pissed off. Let's look at the pre-made monsters anyways.
Ka-chow!
𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓪𝓵 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵. Only after having finally completed this game did I realize that your monster's stats actually do matter. When I was a kid, I was never able to beat this game, and I always thought it was because I was shit at the games, but it might have just been a stats problem. This screen was apparently available to me the entire time, and I just completely missed it. I don't know how I resisted not pushing A on my monster. You know, I wonder how many kids got filtered by this. I know I got filtered by it. I just made whatever random nonsense I wanted to. No logic, no thought, just monsters that were built stupid. And I know for a fact I hit a wall and simply couldn't proceed. I did not beat this game when I was a kid. Every aspect of your monster affects its stats. The frame, the thickness of the arms, the thickness of the legs, the texture you pick. The monsters have a fucking elemental attribute that apparently matters. And during the monster creation tutorial, this is never explained to you. Maybe an NPC told you, I don't know. Well, I'm fucking talk to NPCs, I don't give a shit about them. Especially not if I'm a little kid. I'm hopped up on Mountain Dew and Skittles. I don't have the patience for that. The only reason I beat it this time is because I have an adult brain and figured that the way you built your monster actually mattered, but I had no idea it was to this extent. I can't help but feel like I got lucky. Now, I don't have anything to back me up on this, but if you ask me, this was one of the major reasons this game did not sell well. Not only was this stat shit not explained to the player, but aside from the minigames and the unplayable battle mode, it never actually comes up. Like for the spinning minigame, do certain elements beat one another? When does weight actually matter? What the fuck does mental even do? It makes me think perhaps that Amazing Island was originally supposed to be something more grand. But instead, it got relegated to minigames, and not very many of them at that. Maybe that's why the game saw little to no marketing, despite being developed by SEGA. So then, Butler, I guess you were right. I guess it was possible that 𝓢𝓾𝓫𝓵 was too heavy for flying minigames, since, you know, weight is one of the stats. What do you know? You actually knew something for once.
I know a lot of things actually.
Oh yeah? Name one thing then.
Your mother.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't, leave a comment. Be sure to follow me on Twitch. I stream most weekdays. On screen here are the most devoted of fans, the patrons. Join their ranks by subscribing to my Patreon today. I post previews for videos, blogs, new character art, shit like that. But really, if anything, telling people about HauntLich, sharing the channel on social media, stuff like that, that's absolutely huge. Do it up.